Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here on Monday, April 15th. But before we kick off the play of the day, we will be recapping what happened yesterday. We ended up getting another win with the Vegas Golden Knights -1, which was available at +109 on 5 dimes. I also recommended the -1.5, and I even had some personal money on that. But we thought that the -1 was a safer play for the potential push draw. Didn't matter. Vegas scored 15 seconds into the game. Mark Stone had a hat trick, and Vegas won easily by a score of 6-3. Got a little bit stressful in the beginning of the third period when San Jose ended up scoring 2 goals in about 2 minutes, with about 13 minutes left. But either or, it was a nice win for us as we push our winning streak on this show to 5. And anytime you're able to get a very nice win at plus money, it's definitely a good sign. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's nice going. Yeah, how's it going, Thomas? How's it going, Don? How's it going, Terry? Nice to see all of you again. How's it going, Brad? Just a quick reminder, at any point, if any of you have any questions that you want to ask me personally regarding any bets that you like for today, or just some thoughts on how I handicap, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. But with that being said, it's time to move on to our play of the day. How's it going, Jimmy? And our play of the day, we will be going back to baseball. And for that, we will be looking at a total between the Kansas City Royals and the Chicago White Sox, as they will be playing today at roughly 8 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, Cody, time's a little bit hectic, but I finally found some free time in the afternoon. So I thought it would be a good time to go live just to get this play out there. So in this game, you have the Kansas City Royals versus the Chicago White Sox. Kansas City will be using Heath Fillmyer, who currently has a 15 ERA, and Chicago will be using longtime MLB journeyman Irvin Santana, who has an ERA of 17.18. It is worth mentioning that both of these pitchers have only had one start this season, so their numbers are inflated, so to speak, based on the fact that they will definitely improve over the long sample size that is the MLB. But it is worth mentioning that neither of these pitchers even got to 4 innings in their first start. Both of them possess whips over 2.6. And overall, both these pitchers do not have great numbers against the opposing offenses in previous seasons. I know that that doesn't really mean much because of the fact that the lineups typically change every year. But Fillmyer last year, White Sox kept a decent portion of their lineup from last season, and they were even able to add some very nice young pieces, including Jimenez, who is their star shortstop, who's playing the outfield now for that team. But both teams, surprisingly, even though the Royals and the White Sox are not typically known for having solid offenses, and they won't as the season moves on, both of them actually had very solid weekends from an offensive standpoint, as the White Sox were able to score 5 or more runs in 2 of the 3 games against the Yankees this past weekend on the road, as they took 2 out of 3. And the Royals were able to sweep the Cleveland Indians at home and have actually scored 5 or more runs in 4 of their last 5 games. The total's at 9.5, which might seem a little bit high. How's it going, Robert? Thanks for joining us. But the total seems a little bit high at 9.5, and some people might be tempted to just take the first 5, based on the fact that you have Irvin Santana versus Heath Fillmyer. But it is worth mentioning that both of these teams also have bottom 8 bullpen ERAs. So, in other words, these two teams have 2 of the 8 highest ERAs out of the bullpen. So even if these starters are able to somewhat piece it together for maybe 6 innings, 3 runs each, I would not be surprised to see these bullpens give up multiple runs in bunches, especially with the way that these offenses have played over the last couple of days, over the weekend, and over last week in general. Both these teams won't be headed to a playoff spot, but both these teams do have the potential to hit some big home runs with the long ball. With the Royals, you have that with Soler and with Alex Gordon, whereas the White Sox, you still have Abreu, who struggles so far, but you still have Abreu. Moncada still has the ability to go deep, and Jimenez has looked pretty good so far in his young rookie campaign. But with the lack of quality starters, with the current form of these lineups, and with the extremely poor bullpens, we will be recommending the over 9.5, which is available at -110 at 5 dimes. But now, since it's playoff time in multiple sports, we will be looking at leans for the other sports. My Brooklyn Nets are currently up 1-0 in the series, and Philly's currently laying 8 in this. It's up to 8.5 in some spots, but it's primarily 8. In this game, I actually have to lean to Philly here. Brooklyn, they came out and they punched Philly in the mouth, which is what they need to do. This is a must-win game for Philly, especially in basketball. You can't go down 0-2 and lose both home games. The Nets did a great job of limiting Philly, but Philly also shot 3 of 20. I believe it was 3 for 27 from the three-point line. So, yeah, as you just alluded to, B-Phils, thanks for joining us also. The 76ers had to shoot absurdly terrible from the three-point line in order for the Nets to win this game outright. And I think it's also worth mentioning that the Sixers, assuming Embiid is even a little bit more healthy than he was for Game 1, the Nets can't guard him. That's the issue that the Nets have, and that's why I took Philly winning this series in 7. For those of you who watched the series preview show or the NBA bracket I made, I actually had the Nets winning Game 1 and losing in 7 games based on the fact that Embiid is simply unguardable. Jared Allen's a very good rim protector, but Embiid has at least 30, 40 pounds in him, if that, even more. In the paint, they can't guard him. If you saw Embiid, he got fouled at least 10 times in the first 5 minutes that he touched the ball. I have to assume Ben Simmons with the floor spacing is an issue, but Redick was also terrible from 3. The whole team couldn't shoot, and the rotations were all over the place as Coach Brown was trying to find a rotation that worked. Overall, the Nets can afford to lose this game because they've already won a home court advantage for the rest of the series because they stole Game 1. So for me, I'd have to lean towards the Sixers at -8 here. I think it's a high spread, but I think it's also – I agree, B-Phils, I think it's a high spread, but I think that it's high for a reason. And as for the over-under, I agree with you, B-Phils. I have to lean towards the under here. On the one hand, either the Sixers are going to shoot terribly from 3 again, and the game will go under. Or on the other hand – is that Philly will keep trying to get into the post for Embiid. And the Nets offensively, Embiid's a great rim protector. If the Nets struggle a little bit from the three-point line, this game should go under. Plus, it's important to note that the under in the NBA playoffs is 7-0. So far in all the games, this I believe it's either 7-0 or 8-0 to the under so far. And I think 226 is too high, especially with the way that the refs are preparing for the playoffs. They tend to let a little bit more go in terms of contact in the paint. I like the under in terms of leaning, but I also would lean towards Philly first half spread. I wouldn't be surprised to see Philly come out and punch the Nets in the mouth. The Nets, I know Coach Atkinson's done a good job making sure his teams don't get complacent, but the Nets know in the back of their mind they stole a game. They can afford to lose this one. Philly should come out and try to give it to the Nets. I expect Embiid to have double-digit points in the first quarter. I expect him to give him the ball every possession. And I think the Nets will struggle trying to guard him, and they will get into foul trouble early and often. Embiid can't be guarded. If Embiid gets 30-something minutes, and as I said on the series or on the NBA bracket show, if Embiid can play 30-plus minutes, he'll average 30 and 15. The Nets can't guard him. As a Nets fan, I've seen the Nets play, and I've seen the Nets struggle dealing with opposing big men, especially the elite ones. And I think Embiid will be able to get whatever he wants. Yeah, Cody, when he said the line's not adjusted, I agree. But I also think that after Game 1, with all the controversy on the sideline of how Embiid and Amir Johnson were looking at text messages on the sideline and the team looked lost, you'd probably assume that this spread would be around maybe 4.5 to 6. I'd say that if after Game 1, you'd assume Philly would be favored by 4.5 to 6 points in this game. The fact that they're favored by 8 makes me believe Philly's going to kill the Nets tonight. That would not surprise me to see Philly win by double digits, as Philly relatively coasts to the finish line before the Nets end up going back home to Brooklyn, satisfied that they were able to steal one of the 2 games in that series. So I will be leaning towards Philly and the under. Moving on with Golden State and the Clippers. Started at 14.5, down to 13.5. I don't really care. I would take the Warriors here. I don't think it really matters. Anytime you give up 15 rebounds to Steph Curry, your team's got to reevaluate some priorities. And Curry has looked unstoppable since his whole contact lens fiasco, whatever's going on there. I like the Clippers roster in terms of depth, but Golden State looked fully motivated in that game, and we've all seen what the Warriors can do when they are, actually trying to win a game, and they blow any team out. They won by 17. They could have won by more. They kind of took their foot off the gas late. But I think we both know that Durant has the ability to take over a game at any time. Curry's looked unstoppable. Even Draymond hit some shots in the previous game. And Klay Thompson was okay Game 1, didn't really do much. But overall, I just don't see how the Clippers will be able to keep this game close. I think Clippers might be able to come out maybe in the first quarter or so and make this game competitive. But we all know how good the Warriors are in the third quarter of games, and I think that the Warriors should win this game by 20. I think the Clippers know in the back of their mind that their obstacle in overcoming the Warriors is almost insurmountable, and I think that the Warriors will come out and they will punch them in the mouth, as I expect the Warriors to win this game by 20 points. So I would lean towards the Warriors, and I also would lean towards the over. I know it's at 234, which is really high for a playoff game, but after game one, both these teams love to play up-tempo. They have solid benches. I expect Lou Williams to get more minutes, as he was one of the only people on the Clippers who were able to generate consistent offense. So if Lou Williams plays 30-plus minutes, he should be able to score 28-plus points. So I would lean towards the over in that game. Moving on to hockey, you have Boston versus Toronto. I actually like the underdog in this game. I like the Bruins to take this game. I was really impressed with how the Bruins responded to game one, and they ended up winning 4-1 in game two. Tuukka Rask looked great. The Bruins ended up getting 41 shots on net. The Bruins just looked like the more physical team, and Toronto is a very finesse-built team who love to generate offense and odd-man rushes, and Boston was just hammering people. They were smashing people into the boards. It's also worth mentioning that Nazem Kadri, very underrated player for Toronto. He's gotten the reputation of being a dirty player, but he's still a very solid player to the identity of Toronto. He brings a little bit of toughness to that team, and he will be suspended for this game. He's meeting with the commissioner of the NHL in person, and earlier today, so his suspension has not been officially determined yet, but it's pretty much well known he will be missing this game. I think he's going to be missing the rest of the series. I think he will be getting 5 games, but he will pretty much be a guarantee to not play tonight. And I think Boston found out a way to crack Toronto's, offense and crack them in general, and it's just to be extremely physical with Toronto. And I expect Toronto to get manhandled here. I know the crowd will be going nuts in Toronto, but I would not be surprised to see the Bruins win this game 3-2. And I think the Bruins will be able to win this game and to take a 2-1 series lead. So I lean to the Bruins in that one. Moving on with the Capitals and the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are favored in this game at -125. It was at -135. The money has come in on Washington. In terms of this game, I only see value with the Capitals here. I think Carolina's done a good job of making every game competitive, except for the fact that Washington has been able to deliver that final blow, which Carolina has not been able to do in the previous 2 games of the series. I lean to Washington. Carolina's down 2-0. The pressure's on Carolina because they know that they can't afford to go down 3-0 like the Lightning did last night. If you go down 3-0 in hockey, teams have only come back 4 times from a 3-0 deficit in the history of hockey. Carolina knows if Washington wins this game, the series is over. And I haven't really been impressed with Mrazek and net for Carolina. I think Holtby's been pretty good. I think that the Washington's offense will look good with Oshie, particularly with Backstrom and Ovechkin. They've looked really good this series. I haven't heard much from Kuznetsov, but he has the ability to take over a game anytime he wants to. I would lean to Washington there, as I think the Capitals should be able to get the job done. Would I be shocked if Carolina won? No. But in terms of value, I don't feel very confident taking Carolina in a favorite price. I would potentially lean to Carolina if they were like a +110 or a +105, but there's no way I'm laying -125 with Carolina in this game. Moving on, you have Dallas and Nashville. Total still at 5. Dallas is currently a -118 favorite. In terms of what I like in this game, first off, I think the series is the most even series so far. Both teams have looked relatively even, especially with the fact that both teams can't score goals. In terms of value, I would actually bet this game to go to overtime. I don't know what the odds are. Yeah, it's fine. See you around, Cody. Thanks for joining us. It's all good. In terms of value for this game, I would lean towards, first off, the first period under I feel like is a must. And 2, I would lean to, will this game go to overtime? Yes. These teams are too even, and scoring is almost impossible between these 2 teams. That even if you get a 1-1 game, you could go to overtime like it did it in game 2. I expect this game to be really close throughout. I think this game will be decided by 1 goal, and I think there is value on the overtime prop bet if you have that available at your respective book, especially for a large plus price. And with Calgary versus Colorado, in my bracket, I had Calgary in 6. I'm not surprised Colorado was able to win in overtime. In terms of this game, I'd have to lean to the under 6, based on the fact that these games have generated 5 goals in the first 2 games, and one of them even required overtime. Grubauer's looked good in net. Mike Smith has looked good in net. I think Calgary will win this game because I think they're the deeper team, but I do like the under 6 in this game. But just a quick reminder, the play of the day as we try to push our winning streak to 6 will be on the Kansas City Royals and the Chicago White Sox over 9.5. A quick question from Thomas in terms of the leans for Cincinnati and Los Angeles. The answer is no. I don't really have any leans on that because of the fact that I don't know how Kershaw will be pitching in his first start coming back off of injury. I know in the minor leagues he was okay. I know Castillo has been very good for the Reds. I would lean to the Dodgers because of the fact that the Reds had to travel from Mexico yesterday as they ended up playing against the Cardinals in one of the Mexican MLB series that they've been trying to promote for a couple of years. So the traveling spot's very, it's not a great spot for Cincinnati for traveling as they have to travel from a foreign country to Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers at home. Dodgers have struggled lately. They only won 1 out of 3 games against the Brewers this past weekend. In terms of who I lean, I'd have to lean to the Dodgers. Do I see much value on them? Not really, because I think Castillo is actually a good pitcher. But overall, I don't like the traveling spot for Cincinnati, so I would lean towards the Dodgers in this game. Terrible bullpens with the over 7.5 with the Mets and Phillies. I actually agree with you on that. I think the bullpens are bad. I think that Syndergaard has been very streaky so far this season. It is worth mentioning that you are getting roughly 22-mile-an-hour winds going to the left, going to the right side. So there will be a lot of winds in this game. It will not be pushing any ball further to the outfield or won't be pushing any balls further into the infield. It will be to the side. But I have to wonder how the pitcher's commands will work with the 20-mile-an-hour winds going on. I like the over there. I agree. I think that both these teams' bullpens are not great. Even if you are afraid of Nola versus Syndergaard, I would recommend taking the second half over, which is available in some books. You can bet the first 5 in some books, and some books let you bet the first 5 or bet the last 4. And the last 4 is considered the MLB second half. The problem with the second halves and where there's a lot of value is that they don't adjust to the bullpens. They only look at the full game total, and then they'll divide up the first 5 with the last 4 based on that game total. So, for example, if the total's 7.5, you're probably looking at 4 runs in the first 5 and then 3 or 3.5 in the last 4 innings. I personally like the over in the second half there because both bullpens are terrible. But in terms of full games, I'd have to lean to the over in the Mets and Phillies, particularly with the way that both offenses have the ability to play well. It is worth mentioning that the Phillies offense did struggle against Miami in 2 of those 3 games this past weekend, but I still like the over 7.5 there due to the terrible bullpens. In terms of the Kershaw pitch count, nothing's been reported, but based on the fact that Kershaw will mean so much to the team moving forward, I have to assume that his pitch count will probably be 80 or 90. It makes no sense for the Dodgers to risk his arm by letting him throw triple-digit pitches in the middle of April. I'd have to assume Kershaw, no matter what, is going to go 5 innings, and he's probably going to throw about, I'd say he's probably going to throw about 80 to 90 pitches, and then they'll call it. So with Yannick pitch count, it's not officially a given because nobody's announced anything, but I think it's common sense to assume that he will be pitching around 5 innings, and they will most likely pull him at 80 pitches, give or take, as they try to, slowly wean him back into the starting rotation. Oh, in terms of where I get the weather from, there's this website known as dailybaseballData.com, and they provide me with all the weather information that I use. They have some stuff on RotoWire, but RotoWire I have found is not the most accurate. I use them for daily lineups, which are important. But if you honestly search up MLB weather data, the first thing that comes up is dailybaseballData.com, which is my source of using, just for weather. And I know that some people will focus on the ballparks in general. Weather is crucial. I mean, people notice that when it comes to Wrigley Field because the wind blows out and all that other stuff. And people also think that, the ballpark matters because if they're playing in Coors Field, the game's probably going to go over. But if the wind's blowing like 15 miles an hour in, all those home run balls turn into fly balls to the warning track. And in terms of Indians-Mariners, I didn't cover that game. If you want to know who I'd lean to, I'd have to lean to the Mariners based on the fact that the Indians just got swept by the Royals. I know that the Mariners got swept, but they were playing the Astros, and the Astros are one of the hottest teams in baseball, as we know about because we cashed a play of the day with them on Saturday. But I think that getting swept by the Astros is a lot worse than getting swept by the Royals. And I think the Indians, until Lindor is back, I don't trust this team's offense. I would personally lean to the Mariners in that game. But we're getting to about the 20-minute mark. So the play of the day, as I said before, will be on the Royals and White Sox over. but that's over 9.5. But that will do it for this installment of Scott Selections, as we hope to push our winning streak to 6. So having said that, have a good day, everybody. Good luck to you and your bets on this Monday. Have a good day.